Welcome back, Timeline. I'm Tanya. I'm your host, and this is the most interesting people on my timeline. It's an interview series and archive where I explore the digital space and how it affects the lives and work of my most interesting online friends. If you're new here, welcome. On this podcast, we explore different creative processes or professional processes and how social media, NFTs, AI affect them. And we do this by interviewing people across different industries who I have had the pleasure of connecting with online or IRL. If you're not new here, get ready for some more Sonic Slay with today's episode as we continue exploring music in the digital space with our guest this season. As always, you can listen to all episodes of the most interesting people on my timeline anywhere you get your podcast. All information and links will be in the description box of whatever platform you're listening on, or you can find it on taniadoes.com/interesting people. If you head to the website, you'll also find bonus content for each guest, and this season you'll find a link to a Spotify playlist featuring work inspired by or made by this season's guests. Today's episode features LA-based singer-songwriter Jenny Baker, who has an amazing come up in utilizing TikTok in her career. You can find more info and links to Jenny's work in the description box or on taniadoes.com/Jenny Baker. Welcome to this episode of The Most Interesting People on My Timeline. Let me introduce you to Jenny.
I'm Jenny Baker. I am a singer-songwriter. So I write I write all of my own music, and I also write for other people as well, which I love to do. I grew up in Maine, went to Harvard, moved out to LA last year, and I've just been working on my artist project and releasing music and trying to build my platform, which is kind of the only thing I've ever wanted to do.
I love hearing that you also write for others. Because we'll talk about side hustles a little later, but and you also mentioned you write all your own music. You just released your EP, your first EP. How is that? How does that feel after having that out?
It feels like a big relief. I wrote it over the course of 3 years, so it took a really long time. I mean, I wrote hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of songs and picked 5 for this project. So it's a big relief for it to be out, also because the last 2 songs I put out are so old. The whole thing's pretty old because, throughout the process of writing it, I was discovering my sound and who I wanted to be as an artist. And so, yeah, it just feels very cathartic to have it out. And I'm honestly just way more excited about the stuff that's coming this spring, because it's just so new and fresh to me. And so the second I put this EP out, I was like, okay. I'm literally going to the studio in 2 days to finish the first single of the next era, because I think it took me so long to figure out who I was as an artist, what my sound was, what I wanted to do. And now that that's all settled, I just want to put out so much more music, but I'm very happy that it's out. It was quite the journey for sure.
I was gonna say, at least from an outsider's point of view, when you're looking at TikTok, it seems like it's all coming out very quickly. And I EP came out, and I was like, oh, I know snippets of all these songs. It's cool to hear all of them, but it's actually years in the making to what you actually show. But are you seeing that then differently with this new era of it being a little quicker?
Yeah, I mean, so I think in this past project, I utilized TikTok a lot, and then I let people decide what was going to come out, and when, which was helpful in the way that I think I developed a relationship with my fans where they knew I was very much listening to them. And so I would post I literally posted Fingerprints the day after I wrote it. I had no idea when I was going to put it out, if I was going to put it out. And then the demo did super well on TikTok and continued to do well. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to put this out. And same thing with Called It Off. And so that makes it a little harder, especially, Trial Run was the first time that really happened, where I had only the demo. I had just written it. I posted it. It went viral, and I had to finish it that night and put it out. So I guess Fingerprints and Trial Run were more fresh. All the other songs in the EP were pretty old, but still, it's I was even with an old demo, I was just letting people on TikTok decide, because I was posting absolutely everything and then seeing what people resonated the most with, and then putting that into the release plan, which was good. It did definitely, it had its pros, but it's also really, really difficult because it's hard to plan ahead when you're just letting people on the internet decide what's going to come out. And so for the next project, I'm not going to do that. I'm still going to use TikTok as much as I have before, but it just doesn't matter to me. Well, it matters, but I'm not going to not put something out if it isn't blowing up on TikTok. I'm just going to put stuff out like every 5 weeks is my plan, like regardless of what's going on TikTok, because it has been a challenge to kind of make that the deciding factor. And so I'm going to try a different approach this next time, and just I have like the songs lined up and I'm just going to roll them out consistently no matter what.
Yeah, and I was gonna say it sounds like the more you grow on TikTok, the harder that obviously became, because it goes from like having just a few fans you can really listen to, like kind of like get the scope of, to like a lot with differing opinions. So yeah, it probably just gets like harder. But then what is like the rest of the creative process like? Utilizing TikTok, and right now you say you have a plan to release every 5 weeks. How does that go? Who's on your team?
Yeah, so I mean, right now I'm very independent. In my artist project, which is basically like in the music industry, you have like writers for other people, you can write for yourself, like, and then when you're like a songwriting artist who puts out music, it's called like your artist project. And my artist project is so sacred to me. It is like my entire life. It is my child. It was the only thing I care about. And so I don't want to rush into like a deal or something like that where I'm being told what to do if it isn't like the most perfect fit. And so, I talk to different people and different companies and etc. But right now I'm holding it all very close to my heart, because I really want, for as long as I can stay independent, I really, really want to stay independent, because having like complete creative control over everything is really important to me. So the team involves friends and my family. that is the team. I make music with a lot of my friends from Berklee. I was in the Berklee dual degree program at Harvard, so I was studying full-time at Harvard and also taking a bunch of classes at Berklee College of Music, and that network has been like invaluable, just amazing since moving to LA. So I work a lot with my friend and collaborator, Davin Kingston. He produces a lot of my stuff. I have a circle of writers that I work with a lot. And then also, since moving to LA, I've worked with and been introduced to different people, and have been kind of just growing my community of collaborators. And yeah, I'm so grateful for all of them. I'm very much into co-writing. I love, love, love co-writing. It's like my favorite thing to do, and I prefer it over writing alone. And so I have like a group of co-writers I work with a lot. And then, producers that I love working with that are all like my friends, honestly. It's all just like a big circle of friends. And then, yeah, I have a lot of just like family and friend support, in terms of like I always run ideas by my friends and help brainstorm, or even, okay, so like for this last project, I did a like campaign where anyone who pre-saved got stickers, like these little bad boys, and these were designed by one of my best friends from childhood, who is like an amazing artist. And so I honestly, my team right now is just like a big kind of community of all of my friends, but I do a lot of it alone as well. Like all of like the artwork, the branding, the social media, all of that side of things is just me. But I definitely have a wonderful community of people around me that help as well.
Yeah, and like I feel like that makes sense if you're trying to stay more independent. It makes sense with your work because it's so personal, like very personal relationships and stuff. So it makes sense that the team that's working on it is close to you, knows you personally, versus kind of like at a record company or a label or anything like that.
Yeah, that's the thing too. Like I understand why, artists like Lady Gaga or even Fletcher, like they have almost these two personalities. Like they have their personal identity and their artist identity, but mine is so like just interconnected in a way that makes things hard, honestly, because my artist like brand is literally just my personality. Like my songs are literally just my life. Like everything is just exactly who I am. I like almost always put like the exact truth into every single song, and so it just feels like even more personal, and I'm like even more protective over it, because yeah, it's just like the inside of my mind and heart all the time.
Yeah, I was gonna say like it's very the opposite of the pop star persona that people have, kind of like you said, like Lady Gaga and things. And I was gonna say, has that actually caused any drama? It's giving like Taylor Swift. She writes a lot of stuff and like from her personal life. Has that come up into like your IRL life?
Yeah, yeah. Not like really, really, but it's like I'm from a very small town in Maine.
Right.
Um, the EP is all about my 5-year relationship that ended a couple years ago. And I really do wish him all the best. There's no drama there, but like it's just that everyone knows. You know what I mean? Like there's just a lot of people that know exactly what the songs are about because like my entire community that I grew up with was very, kind of closed off and just like tiny, tiny small town vibes. Everyone knows everyone's business type thing. And I love my town and they're so supportive of me, but it also just means that like everybody knows what all the songs are about. So that's been like an interesting thing to navigate. My mom works at like the elementary school and she'll go in and people are like, oh my gosh, like it's a song about him, and she'll be like, I don't know.
I
But
know.
that's the extent of the drama, not too bad.
Yeah, no, give you props for that. I don't I feel like I would have not. I would have layered a bunch of stuff on there to like hide it. No, you put it out there. Have you ever had an interaction of like where someone who was a fan like met you or like ran into you?
You know what's so funny is after like my trial run one video in March, my friend Steve-O, who was in the video, got recognized a bunch of times, but I didn't. And I was like, what the heck? I guess it happens like not in the way that like a random stranger on the street runs up to me. I'll be at like a music thing and like people will be like, oh, I see you on my FYP, or like when I'm like home in Maine, it happens definitely way more, but not a lot. I do get like I have a lot of sweet like fan interaction on the internet, but not so much people like finding me as much in LA.
Do you have a favorite interaction that has happened like
Oh
online?
my God. Yeah, I don't even know how I can pick a favorite, but it's kind of very surreal. It sounds like really weird to be like, oh, my fans, like, it feels like cringy. But yeah, I do have like a little community of people now, which is the coolest thing ever. Um, I think one of the most special moments was when this fall I put out my song Fingerprints, and for the promo I made fingerprint art for anybody that pre-saved and wanted it, and a lot of people wanted it. And so like for weeks every night I was just like making this silly little fingerprint art and like getting international stamps to send them to like Uganda and the Netherlands and like all of these places around the world where like these people wanted my like little art. And like I'm not like they weren't, they were cute, I guess, but they definitely weren't anything crazy. And just like that, being able to sit down every night and make something for like real people that actually cared about my music was so special. And I think, yeah, that kind of really, I don't know, made me realize that I was kind of on the right path or doing something right if there were just like actual human beings that cared enough to want like my little handwritten notes or things like that. But I think every interaction I have with fans is like the most special thing in the world, because even before I started putting out music, like my main goal was for my fan base to feel like a friend group. Like I always said that. I really wanted it to be like a safe space, but also just I'm very intentional about like showing a lot of like myself and my personality online, because I want people to feel like they are my friend and I want them to feel like they know me. And I feel like obviously my base is still really small, but like that culture is there at least. And that like last week I had a Zoom party with fans before the release of the EP, and it was the cutest thing in the world. Like literally like me and like these girls, like they were just losing their mind, and like they all were kind of like messaging me after saying how they felt like they were my friend or I had helped them through whatever experiences. And like that is the greatest, because when you're living in LA and everyone is doing the exact same thing as you, I am horrible at comparing myself to people. Like I do it relentlessly, like 24/7. I'm like, oh, like they have this many monthly listeners and like this is the engagement on TikTok and blah blah blah. I'm terrible at it. Like I'm working on it, but I really like torture myself. But the one thing that will just always clear my head or like make me realize what I'm doing is worth it is like those interactions with fans and just like the messages I get about how my music has helped them, or just like little things, like one of my fans was like, I finished my homework early so I could come to the release party, like that kills me. Like that actually kills me. Like those are the most special moments. I think another one that is up there is I played my first like full band LA show this fall, and I have this fan in San Diego who is so dedicated, and it's such a bummer because she got exposed to COVID so she couldn't come. But she sent me pictures where she had literally got like a Cricut, like one of those like cutout like crafting machines, and was making bedazzled t-shirts for the event, where she wants to make my like, I don't know, slogan as an artist, let's get baked, which is hilarious because I don't smoke, but she like, it's just like the vibes, like she wants to be like Jenny Baker, let's get baked. And so she was literally making let's get baked bedazzled t-shirts on this Cricut machine that she bought for the show to make the t-shirts. And even though she wasn't able to make it, like she sent me pictures of like her making the shirts, and I was like, this is the craziest thing in the entire universe. So yeah, those are some of the highlights, I think.
That is the cutest, like, I guess, a parasocial relationship. Like, and I feel like with you, and it's like a smaller fan base, so you do really get that like actual interaction. Do you have like a fandom name? I know like the bakery is pretty obvious, but I don't know if you found another name for the community.
I earlier on this year, I had posted something where, so one of my friends, so in trial run, it says, what if all that I was a trial around the one before the one? And one of my friends came up with an idea to call the fan base the ones. And so I posted about it, and like everyone loved it. And so I think like up right now, it's kind of like the ones, but I also love the bakery, and I also kind of love like Baker's Dozen or something like that. So I'm still pondering, it isn't 100% set in stone, but I've been operating under the ones right now because I think it's cute, but it's subject to change.
That is cute. And I feel like you could like get a little bit of both, because like your stickers have like a bakery theme, but you could like go back and forth. And as like the community gets bigger, it'll probably like change and kind of like self-describe a little bit.
Yeah.
That's gonna be fun to see. Charity, like a few of the proceeds from the EP are going to charity. How did you choose that organization? What other, why do this charity through your EP?
Yeah, so it is very important to me to tie my like passion for activism into my artist project. And so what I'm going to be doing, I mean, this is the first project, and then just onward, every single project is going to be tied with a different organization, because I don't want people to be able to support me financially without it like getting sent to like other, causes and things that I think are important. And, like at Harvard, I studied sociology with a focus in like public policy, social inequality, all that type of stuff, which I have always been like deeply, deeply passionate about. And people always ask like, well, how are you using it? Like, what are you doing with it now? And like the goal is, I think, to make my music platform like also an educational platform, to honestly just like uplift other activists. You know what I mean? Like there's always going to be people that are able to like understand things and speak on them better than I can. So like just using my platform to like give, like just like to share information about like other work that's being done. And also I think just to tie the music financially to like different organizations that I am passionate about, just because like I don't want people to be able to support me without in turn supporting the causes that I care about. So I started with Education Through Music LA, Well, because first of all, they are incredible. They do like music programming in underfunded schools in Los Angeles, and just $150 can sponsor like an entire year of music education for a student. And so I think, I would not be where I am today without like the music education opportunities that I've had. Like, definitely not. Like, I have so much of like who I am is because of like my music teachers, or the experiences that I've had. And so that was really important to me. And also because like this is the first iteration of kind of the structure of like tying like like partnering with different organizations with every project. And so I wanted to start with a music organization, so it like made more sense to people when I like first introduced it. So it wasn't just like a random organization that was like a cause totally separate from music. I kind of wanted to like ease into the structure by choosing a music organization that was also doing incredible work. And then the next project that's coming out this spring, a lot of the songs, and it's less about like heartbreak and more about like an evolution of self-work or self-worth, not work, self-worth, and a product of like the work I've done just like in therapy and just like, feeling better and understanding my mind more, really is like just understanding my brain more. Like a lot of the songs have come from that exploration. And so that is going to be tied with a mental health organization. And so like sometimes it's going to like kind of go hand in hand thematically, but other times it's just going to be organizations that I just want to support.
Tied to that though, you also mentioned like people were asking, what are you doing with like the Harvard part of your degree or whatever, and like there's that whole like pressure to use it. But I think that, I don't know, personally I learned more outside of like my classes than I did in my classes. For me, that was also like 21cc for me. What was something maybe like through that experience that you took with you and you learned, and what's something maybe you learned to like leave behind that you like learned from through that experience?
Okay. So we were in this group in college called 21cc, aka 21 Colorful Crimson. And it was founded by James Matthew, and it was, with the intention of like celebrating like the diversity of the Harvard student body. And it was kind of this in-house like music group. So it was 14 performers, and then also like videographers, photographers, social media managers, producers, all like in one group. And we did kind of, pop, hip hop type music.
Yeah, it was like we didn't really have a genre, but I would say we were more on like the pop, hip hop kind of.
Yeah. Yeah. And we got to do a lot of cool things, it lasted for a couple years, and we opened for Lil Yachty and Wale and the Mowgli's and Jay Sean, and we played gigs in Boston and played for like the Harvard presidential inauguration. And like, I think, Harvard also kind of gave us some opportunities as well, which was really fun. That was like hugely formative in my goals, because I think, growing up in like my tiny town in Maine, like I knew I loved to sing and I knew like I loved to make music, but I was never given the opportunities to like do the pop thing or kind of be kind of like the fully formed artist, like aesthetically, that I wanted to be, because it just was, there were not a lot of opportunities for that specifically. I remember during Yard Fest, our first big show, I put on this like lace jumpsuit and like went on stage and like played all of these pop songs, and like the whole crowd was going crazy, and I was like, oh, so like this is what I want to do. Like, okay. Like I remember like being on stage during Yard Fest and looking out at the crowd and being like, okay, so this is what I'm going to be doing with the rest of my life. Like for sure, there's nothing else I could possibly ever do. And so I think having the opportunities to kind of find who I was as an artist, like a lot of that was with like the fashion, or just kind of like how I wanted to present myself, or who I really was like musically and artistically. Like I think that 21cc gave me so many opportunities to really figure that out. And yeah, I'm so grateful for that. So I think that I learned a lot from that in terms of just like the performance opportunities, and how kind of like big and fun they were. So there were just like no limits in terms of, you know, how we all kind of wanted to push ourselves or present ourselves. But yeah, so I think that was great. And then also just like that was some of my first experiences with collaborating and like with co-writing. And so I think especially in the beginning, it was just really fun to have a group of people that were also passionate and just like collaborate and perform with them all. Like that was just so special because I just didn't have anything near that growing up in high school. And so I think just learning more about like collaborating musically with that type of music was really important and special. I mean, things to leave behind. I don't know. You don't know. I mean, you know, the group wasn't perfect. It fizzled out. I think that also like as much as I love more like straight down the middle pop, which is like a lot of the stuff that we would do in terms of like covers and stuff like that. It is kind of less what I do now. I do more of like a singer-songwriter pop with like a tiny bit of like punk influence. And so I think that through doing a lot of that music, I was kind of also learning that maybe that wasn't exactly my niche.
No, I would completely agree. I feel like sonically what you've been putting out is a lot more like mature, a lot more complex than what we were doing in 21cc. I think because a lot of us were starting out, it was very formulaic, which makes sense.
Yeah.
But I do think like I also grew from that, knowing like, okay, this is how like the formula for it, cool, like this is like the jumping off point. But then also you and Samira were like great at like I had never taken like a vocal lesson, and just that I remember that little one that we had was just like awesome to be able to work with everyone.
I was thinking about that the other day. That was, I don't know, that was so special.
Yeah, no, I core memory for sure, and like a lot of the performances were core memories. But like you said, like I think there were just a lot of us, and we were all very different. So like, of course, it's all gonna like fizzle out, especially because we weren't on campus for so long. But
Yeah, I mean, we went home for COVID, but I think trying to keep 21 people all locked in when everyone's doing 7 million other things, like, you know, it's tough. But I mean, wow, I had such a blast. I mean, all of those performance opportunities were just ridiculously fun.
oh yeah, I still use all of those for like two truths and a lie. Like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
for Jay Sean. Like, no one will believe me, but it's fun. It's fun to have that as like part of it. Yeah, maybe like moving out of like Harvard, and a little bit more into TikTok. I can kind of see a lot of like your artistic influences like in your music, and like your how you interact with your fan base. Is there someone that's maybe not like, you know, like a conventional pop artist that's maybe more like a TikTok artist or a smaller artist that you've seen on TikTok that has influenced you?
Yeah, I think this is less TikTok, but more I was working for a music publishing company a couple of years ago, and I was doing A&R talent scouting work, and I found this artist, Maud Latour. She had just put out her first project. And I found her and I was like, oh, this girl is insanely cool. And so I've been following her ever since. And I think the way that she has built a community of fans, like even when she was smaller, her fans were so diehard. It was such like this special, tight knit, um, almost like this big friend group, and that deeply inspired me. And watching her build her career from the ground up over the last 4 years has been really cool. And so I think I take a lot of inspiration from her in the terms of like in the way that she has, I think, fostered her fan base and like the community around her music. I think that like, I mean, this is obviously this is not a small TikTok person, but like Taylor Swift, I think was kind of the first person pre-social media to really foster the feeling of like every fan felt like they were her best friend. Um, and so she was able to do it on such a massive scale. And so that's obviously a big inspiration too, where even now, like people do have such strong personal connections with her. And so like that's extremely important to me. Like even with my small group of people, like I want to build a community where people feel like safe and seen. And I think that in terms of small artists, like Maud Latour does an amazing job at that.
I was gonna say too, like actually when you were talking about Taylor Swift, I was gonna ask if you had gotten tickets to her tour or not.
I
Um,
did. I secured the bag. I did not get the pre-sale code, but my friend's friend got the pre-sale code, and she didn't want to deal with the bloodbath of trying to like enter battle to secure them. And so I was like, okay, I'll take one for the team. And I went in and I secured the bag. So I am going to the Eras tour this summer, which I am like, I can't even speak about it. I cannot speak about it. I'm too excited.
I'm very jealous. I was in the bloodbath. I was trying to go to the LA show with one of my friends.
Mhm.
Didn't get it. And I had Capital One and everything. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm in. Did not get it. Did not get it. I should have tried for the Seattle show, to be honest. There was less
Honestly,
competition, but
I don't even know how. I just was like, the second that the waiting room opened, I joined in. And so I think I was like in the front-ish of the queue. Because when I got in there, there were still a lot of tickets, but yeah, it was absolute insanity. But I've gone to Taylor Swift concerts in the past. I always, always, always get the ticket like the day of.
of course, this series is called The Most Interesting People on My Timeline, but for this segment, I turn it over to my featured guest and let them put me onto something new and tell me about the most interesting people on their timeline.
My timeline. Oh geez. I think I'm gonna have to shout out Samira. Samira is one of our friends from Harvard who is absolutely killing it on TikTok and social media and just
Oh,
life
yeah.
generally in terms of her like influencer identity and also just her artistic identity. She's insane. Shout out Samira. She's definitely one of the most interesting people on my timeline. Oh geez. Like artists, like Amelia Moore is one of my favorite up and coming artists. She is absolutely nuts. She's amazing.
Yeah, love it. And I think with Samara, like, I would want to interview her one day because she really made it to like, it's not that she's like in a certain niche or anything. It's like her. That's why people come back, no matter if she's
Yeah,
posting music or like about
yeah.
modeling or whatever. Like, it's really cool to see.
No, her personality is why everyone loves her. Like, and she's, I mean, oh my gosh. Yeah, people will recognize her out in public because she just moved to LA this fall. And I wasn't there for this, but some of our friends from Harvard, like Eric, were visiting LA, and she brought them to this coffee shop, and the barista recognized her and like made this latte art with like her title on it and like a TikTok reference. Like she's got fans everywhere. She's, yeah, totally killing it.
Living the dream, living the dream. This interview with Jenny was filmed a couple months ago because it takes me a while to produce the series by myself. So in the next clip, you'll hear her talk about a release that she did in April, and that release was the stripped down version of her song Trial Run from her debut EP, The Day You're Gone. I absolutely love that song, both versions. She had a little TikTok open verse challenge that I participated in. All that to say, stream the song, stream the stripped down version. It is available on all platforms. Is there anything cool in your future that you'd like to share?
Yeah, so I have a whole other project that's going to be rolling out this spring. So I'm doing like a surprise little release in April, which I won't say yet, but yeah, that's just kind of like less, it's not new, but it's like a remake of sorts. That's coming out in the beginning of April. And then after that, I'm starting the rollout of all the new stuff, which I am like beside myself excited for. Like I can't even speak about it. I like every single song. It's all been written in the last like 6 months, but I'm just like buzzing with excitement. Yeah. It's a little like when you asked earlier if there was drama with the last EP, like there really wasn't any drama. This EP might have like a name drop of sorts.
Ooh, okay.
And not in like an angry way. It's actually not that at all. But it's tea, okay? Like the title track of the EP is tea, and I'll leave it at that. I'm very excited. I'm very excited to roll it out. This project is really special to me because I think it represents that growth and the evolution of like who I am as a person and an artist. And I'm also just really excited for what's to come because this past EP is quite sad and also just like, boohoo, I'm heartbroken. And I think that over the last year, I have done just a lot of work on my mental health and just been doing a lot of therapy and all that good stuff. And I feel like the next project, I think, kind of illustrates more of like an evolution of self-worth that I'm excited to kind of show.
We love to see growth. We love to see healing. It's been really special seeing, like, getting to perform with you and like knowing you because you had such a great voice, singing like all these pop hits, but then seeing you develop that into like your own voice and your own artistry has been really special. Again, thanks to the internet, we've been able to see that. And where can people find you online? Where would you like to be found? Anything that you want to plug?
Yeah, I mean, so you can stream me on all streaming platforms, Spotify, Apple Music, iTunes, YouTube, Amazon, everywhere. At Jenny Baker. And then you can follow me on Instagram, TikTok, really any social media at Jenny Baker Music.
All of Jenny's work will be linked down in the description box of whatever platform you're listening on. And on taniadoes.com/Jenny Baker, you'll find visuals, direct links, as well as bonus content, which is a story Jenny tells about a party she went to in LA. Make sure to stream her debut EP, The Day You're Gone. It is phenomenal. When it came out, I was listening to it on repeat on public transport, and I have the Receiptifies from that month to prove it. It is a great EP. It is vulnerable, and it is also just a little bit heartbreaking in a really fun way. So go stream it. Follow her at Jenny Baker Music on all her platforms. She is going to be releasing new music this summer. Also follow her to make sure you find out when she has shows around LA and to add Jenny to your timeline. Make sure to follow at Interesting People Pod on Instagram and TikTok to follow along with this podcast. I also give periodic updates about past guests because they're doing amazing things. And make sure to follow me, your host, at taniadoes on Instagram and TikTok, just to keep up with me and to share the love and to add me to your timeline. Next week, y'all, I'm so excited for next week's episode. I'm talking to someone who's a singer, songwriter, performer, producer. He's been on national television. He's toured internationally. He's worked with Ivy Queen, Daddy Yankee, and he's married to someone who was a guest on last season. Stay connected, stay creating beautiful things, and I'll see y'all in the next episode.